Happy Pride Month, ladies and gentlemen! Welcome to Hypeimmune Reviews, where hype comes to die. I'm Writer, and for the last week of Pride Month, we're going to talk about the adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. I remember seeing this movie on TV once or twice 30 years ago when I was a kid, and to the chagrin of the usual homophobic crowd, I'm still a vanilla straight dude. The only thing I remember about this flick is its main iconic scene, and as a person planet in a slice of white bread, I'm in a unique position of being a complete outsider while I'm also part of the target audience, but that's for later. I'm not familiar at all with the drag queen subculture, and while I have LGBT friends, none of them had watched this flick. And one of them even used the moment to tell me that she found JoJo too gay for her. So I have absolutely no way of affirming or denying how much this movie is grounded in reality, and please do forgive me if I make a slip up. Now, without further delays, is this movie actually worthy of all this praise? Is it an overhyped dud? Let's take this bus ride. So, what is it about? The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Deserts, to which I will just refer to as Priscilla or Priscilla Queen of the Deserts from now on, is an Australian road trip comedy directed by Stephen Elliott in 1994. Starring Hugo Weaving as Anthony Tick Barrows, a drag queen that uses the stage name of Mitzi Del Bra, Guy Pearce as Adam Whiteley, a drag queen with the stage name of Felicia Jolly Goodfellow, and last but not least, Terence Stamp as Bernadette Bessinger, a transgender woman. Yes, that Terence Stamp.
Kneel before Zod!
The trio of drag performers go on their merry race shows till one day, Tick receives a rather troublesome phone call. His estranged wife is asking for help. Her hotel in Alice Springs needs a boost in popularity, and the drag show could help her greatly. So he gathers up the trio after the death of Bernadette's husband to trek through the countryside on a refurbished bus renamed Priscilla. Yes, the title of the flick refers to the bus, not any of the drag queens. Together, they meet all sorts of weird folks, face some dangers, and spread glamour through the desert. Visuals. The visuals are an interesting blend of old tricks used well and something else that I cannot properly point out. A quick search through Wikipedia tells me that this is Stephen Elliott's second movie, but previously he worked as an assistant director. That could explain the mix of a good photography, shots to highlight the Australian outback, some good styling shots to recontextualize scenes. I do enjoy that the directing knows how to use the drag queen attires in their favor, using specific shots for contrast, making the trio the center of attention, contrasting them with the rest of the Australian populace whenever they are in the cities, but whenever they are in the outback, things are flipped and now they contrast with the outback itself. But there is something weird in the middle of it, I don't know why. Some scenes have sequences of several short cuts interceding with longer cuts for no specific reason, making things a bit disjointed. Sometimes the pacing of a specific scene will be insanely rushed, suddenly switching to a scene set several days later, or some scenes that could have been easily short just go on and on and on, especially in the middle. Outside of that, the camera seems to really enjoy focusing on specific people or moments in order to point out specific details, like how a character is nervous, or an object that can recontextualize the conversation going on. And there are several shots focusing on legs and arms, telling the viewers that yes, those drag queens are buff, with focus on Guy Pearce's arms and Weaving's legs. And considering the whole package, it seems intentional. So I'd say that not as flawless as I've heard some people say it is, it's nonetheless quite efficient and knows its focus. Now, on the topic of costumes, attires and makeup are a nuclear strike to the eyes, but as my LGBT friends told me, that's exactly the intention. You see all sorts of weird dresses, bombastic makeup so full of glitter that one could be used as a beacon in the middle of the desert, Larger-than-life attires, longer than a bus, and even a dress made of sandals. Wait a fucking minute. Dress made of sandals? Oh my god! Outside of the most purposeful bizarre outfits, attires are visually linked to the personalities of their characters, but that's more for the writing and acting. Priscilla, Queen of the Desert is at first look a simple road trip movie. For those who don't know, road trip movies are, well, about a road trip. These kinds of plots are generally with a slow pace, featuring characters that may or may not be antagonistic, but will learn about each other through the adventure and end up better people by the end of it. They will get through a spat, face problems, and may or may not be separated in the middle and reunite in the end. As usual, it's not the cookie recipe that makes something good or bad, but how do you do it? And I have to say that I was quite surprised by the quality of the writing. In Priscilla's case, it's how measured every single element was in this flick and how well they were spliced and organized together. Tick needs to help his wife, and he sees the opportunity to take Bernadette out of her funk and bring along Adam because he is, as Bernadette says, in party mode 24 hours a day, and can be a dick, but also is the one with the resources and is eager to make a show. So right from the get-go you have a nice set of personalities to clash, and these characters are surprisingly nuanced and complex, contrasting with each other. This time I gathered writing and acting because in this flick they are essentially married. I cannot talk about one without mentioning the other. The writing of nuanced characters needed good actors, and these good actors wouldn't go this far without good material. Hugo Weaving plays Tick as a drag queen that is at the same time getting fed up with his shows, but feels lively and dedicated when rehearsing them. Whenever he steps into the high heel shoes of Mitzi, suddenly she's all peppy and eager to dance. And whenever he's back at being just Anthony, he suddenly turns sour and retracted. In a nice dichotomy, whenever he is with his friends, he acts extremely ashamed of his past with his wife. But whenever he deals with his wife's family, he suddenly becomes immensely ashamed of his drag queen life. And Hugo Weaving absolutely aces the immense highs and lows of the character. You can see his body language getting tense, curled, his lips trembling whenever he even thinks about talking to Bernadette about his family, even if Bernadette's the most understanding of them. And yet, he's the one that wears the most masculine clothes of the trio, at least what was considered masculine at the time. At least to me, the movie never explicitly tells the viewer if Tix is bisexual, gay or straight, although it definitely shows that his wife is bi. Pierce plays Adams as the screw you all, I'm here to be me and have fun kind of drag queen, whose attitude will more often than not will either land her in hot water or will seriously piss off her friends. But whenever things go south, she will be the first to call out assholes and will do her best for the production. He is vain, vapid and unashamedly bombastic in his wardrobe in and out of the shows to a level that even Tick thinks it's too much, and, in a surprising twist for a movie of the 90s, is openly a judgmental jackass about Tick's affair with a woman, and keeps using Bernadette's pre-transition name just to spite her, which I then learned that this is called dead naming and it's a huge no-no within the community. All because he gets his kicks out of riling people. Terence plays Bernadette as a jaded tough-as-nails gal who has seen it all, did it all, went through the worst, and is currently at the bottom of the barrel, seemingly with no way out. Her latest husband died because of a freaky accident, but while she knows she must move on, and the main reason why she accepts Stick's invitation, she feels unsure if she will ever be able to, commenting on how she felt used in her last relationship. Her choice of wardrobe matches what a lady of the time would use. While she is the toughest of the trio, both physically and emotionally, but at the same time can be a negativist grouch that hates gossiping and wishes to listen to something else besides ABBA. Together, they go through some weird but relatable moments, talk about loneliness, rejection from family, face homophobes, and find new friends along the way. Adam is the one who wants to party and shine and is actually the one riding on top of the bus dressing in silver. Gets into scuffles with Bernadette, Tix acts as the middle ground, but Tix's emotional needs and venting are helped by Bernadette, while Adams takes care of the group's image. It's a match made in heaven for this sort of movie. This characterization by itself is already really good, but what makes this movie step above is that the script measures everything really well. It has dramatic moments with the group being harassed by homophobes, but it doesn't go overboard. It gives a poignant moment, let the characters wallow in it, and then bounce back. There's a scene where one of the trio nearly gets sexually harassed, but the trip doesn't stop. They recover and move on. It plays personal problems as personal, and doesn't raise the stakes too much. The trio doesn't have to save the hotel from a mean-spirited homophobic capitalist. Dick doesn't need to go through another whole emotional arc after he arrives to his wife's hotel, and so on. Everything is more personal, intimate and subtle, and the movie doesn't hide it. Jokes are well measured too, with styles designed to their specific spots. When Bernadette is dealing with her husband's death, there are some hilarious and equally dark jokes. But as soon as the trio gets into the trip, the style of humor changes. Absurdist jokes, existential jokes, the movie goes through them like the trio goes through the costumes. There are even some really gross toilet humor spots, the kind of comedy I hate most, but thankfully they don't linger either. The recurring joke that I especially like it because it's well measured is about how the countryside isn't glamorous. Sure, it's pretty, but it's also tiring, hot and dry, and these are a trio of drag queens that are walking among rocks with high heels and heavy makeup. But if the movie hits a lot of really good marks, it also has some nasty blemishes as well, like the middle. There is a moment where the trio finds themselves in need of a mechanic and Bob shows up to the rescue, and alongside Bob, his wife Cynthia, who is an Asian woman that married Bob for the citizenship. Speaks with a stereotypical broken accent, is extremely crass and rude to everyone, and seems to exist to be a reference joke about the infamous Full Metal Jacket scene, which was already really outdated and considered downright rude when Priscilla premiered. I was told that due to the movie's age, several of the terms used by the drag queens amongst themselves are now considered slurs, so take a bit of fair for its day approach when watching this movie. This will be a bit more up for individual tastes, but due to how far it gets to finally reach the hotel, there was little time to develop Marion, Tick's wife. I completely understand her side, but it felt some moments that her banter with Tick felt a bit bossy. Perhaps because the movie was close to its end and everyone needed to wrap it up. Speak of, the movie is honest about how the trip itself is more important than the destination. So if you expect an apotheosis, you will be sorely disappointed. On one hand, it was actually nice to see the dramatic points being solved in an adult manner. Adam gets verbally slapped on the face about his own bigotry in a way that shuts him up, Bernadette finding a spark of joy again, and Tick coming to terms with both sides of his life, all in a quiet and simple manner. But on the other hand, other points could have been fleshed out just a bit more. In the end, I said I am part of the target audience because in my opinion, this is the best sort of movie to introduce a subculture to the broader masses, be them drag queens, geeks, physicists, and so on. It's a simple, funny movie showing us that people of that specific subculture are, well, people. They have relatable problems, can be dicks to each other. No one's glorified as a saint, but no one's a devil either. They are just people. And for a movie from 1994, it was immensely ahead of its time for having a trans woman not only as the protagonist, but also as the level-headed of the bunch. Having a drag queen who was married to a bisexual woman, a gay man that treats other LGBTs like crap and is immediately smacked for it, all while deftly dodging Oscar bait traps. Soundtrack. Yeah, this will be absolutely straightforward, simple and direct. This is a movie about a trio of drag queens going through the desert. to reach a hotel for a show. Of course, the soundtrack would be mostly composed by songs played in drag shows and or bands famous in the LGBT world. Not expecting gay music to be played in a gay movie is like watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventures not expecting spine-shattering poses. Village People, ABBA, they are placed in rather fitting moments like Village People's Go West being played in the preparation for the trip montage. Some scenes feature Australian Aboriginal music and instruments thrown into the mix for contrasts, and a famous snippet has I Will Survive being played alongside the didgeridoo. So if that's your jam, you are in for a treat. Final thoughts. Yeah, this is a no-brainer. I do recommend this movie. I find it actually funny that I see this flick being mentioned more often than other LGBT movies like Philadelphia. Perhaps because the trope of gay person die of AIDS ended up being overused as Oscar bait. Another interesting tidbit is that when I asked about Priscilla, Chu Wong-fu, also a road trip movie involving drag queens, was brought up again and again. Though for those who don't know, Chu Wong-fu is, as far as I know, a movie inspired by Priscilla, and some people will say that it darned ripped it off. While some parts of this movie definitely didn't age well, it nonetheless remains a funny movie with interesting characters, poignant messages and themes, and a satisfying conclusion. See you next week, and thank you very much for listening. Spoilers. I gotta be honest that not seeing what happened to the woman trekking across Australia was immensely frustrating. Did she succeed? Did she fail? What, was she a bigoted bitch, or did she just was so focused on her task that she didn't notice the trio waving at her? I must know! Turns out, Dick has a son, Benjamin, and this reveal is one of the pivotal moments of this flick. Dick doesn't know if he will be a good father, and as a drag queen he can be a good father, and Adam starts piling up on his usual debauchery. This was a really interesting moment for me as a viewer. All the convoluted conflicts came from these two characters and remained within these two characters. They don't spill anywhere else. At worst, it's Adam that constantly teases Dick about his sexuality. And when they finally meet the kid, Dick has several problems adjusting, afraid that his son will shun him for being a drag queen, and Adam sees the kid as something that will vilify him as well, but from another angle. At least what I got was that Adam was already in a hostile tone, expecting the kid to be bigoted, only to find that surprise, since his mom raised him to be a tolerant, open-minded person, the kid's quite okay with not only his dad being a drag queen, but the possibility of his daddy dating men as well. And the build-up for this scene is simple and subtle, but with an equally simple and subtle resolution that is truly well acted. Adam asks Benjamin about how he feels about his dad dating men. The tone builds up as if he was going to fling some barbs, only to be completely dismantled when the kid says that, yeah, he's okay with it. Guy Pearce acts very well the guy being utterly dismantled by simplicity. And the same thing happens with Dick and Benjamin. When the kid reveals that, yeah, he's okay with drag queen dad, you can see the poor guy's nuts being dissolved in a really good acting from Hugo Weaving. See y'all next time, and happy Pride Month.